My name is Tyson. I'm with IDX Broker, and I'm here with Alec. We are both from the technical support team here at IDX. So today we'll be going over easy solution to common issues with IDX Broker. And these are basically some issues that our support team have collaborated on that we've decided have been sort of the most common issues that we get calls from and emails from our clients on. So the first thing we're going to cover is cross-domain font issues. Followed by that, we'll go over custom subdomain setups, then missing listings, troubleshooting issues with your global wrapper, and then we'll go over agent and office ID mismatches. So the first thing we're going to cover today is cross-domain font issues. So you may have noticed after setting up either your static wrapper or your dynamic wrapper that there are some weird icons showing up where you used to have like your social networking icons or the icons for your emails or calls or addresses, etc. Basically what's happening is you're using a font on your computers that we don't have saved on our servers. And so it's causing that font to break whenever you go to IDX pages. The good news is this is typically a very easy issue to resolve. The most common cross-domain fonts that we run into are Font Awesome, which is a font created for icons, followed by Icomoon, which was also an icon font. And then some of the Divi themes in WordPress also use a font called Elegant Font. Typically, those are the ones that tend to break on IDX pages. So there are a couple of things that you can do to resolve cross-domain font issues. The first thing, if you go to support.idxbroker.com and type in the word awesome, it's going to bring up a troubleshooting document that will include the Bootstrap script for Font Awesome fixes. So what you'll want to do is take this highlighted portion in the bottom of this Bootstrap script and place it just below the title tags in your static wrapper. And remember, this will be located under Designs, Wrappers in your IDX Broker dashboard. Once you copy and paste the script into the header section below the title tags of your static wrapper, save changes, and refresh your screen. If it's a Font Awesome font that you were using for your icons, then this will resolve the issue. We're also in the process of adding Bootstrap scripts for Icomoon fonts as well, but we haven't found one that we've been able to get to work. So just sit tight. Alec and I are actually currently working on adding that to our support documents as well. The other fix that you'll want to use will be the htaccess fix. So what you'll want to do is find the file extension that ends in .htaccess on your computer that's responsible for your site. When you do that, there's going to be a script that's also included on the same document with the font awesome, and you're going to want to paste that script at the top of the htaccess file. And typically, if it's not a Font Awesome font issue, any kind of Icomoon, elegant fonts, which again are typically the font issues that we have, should resolve itself once you modify that htaccess file, save it, and then refresh your screen. You may need to clear your browser cache and cookies to see changes reflected, so please keep that in mind. So next, we're going to go over custom subdomains. So custom subdomain setups are kind of tricky for a couple of reasons, but mostly in our support document for setting up the custom subdomain, we have in there that you should set your CNAME to subdomains.idxbroker.com. And, for good reason, a lot of our clients will instead put their subdomain instead of the actual word subdomains.idxbroker.com. A lot of times what will happen is they'll put their actual subdomain in there for the CNAME record. So what that does is it causes essentially a loop, causing the page to point to itself, which can cause it to break when it goes to IDX pages. The first thing you'll want to do is check your DNS records. So there is a free site that we like to use in tech support. It's called Central Ops. We do have a link to it. So it's going to show up similar to this right here. What you're going to do is type in the complete subdomain that you had just set up. So in this example here, we have homes.tjlam.com, right? So when you put this into Central Ops, it'll tell you what your CNAME and what your alias is. So make sure your CNAME is pointed to exactly subdomains.idxbroker.com, and make sure your alias is whatever you want your subdomain to be. So in this particular example, the website of this client is tjlam.com. So on IDX broker pages, the subdomain would be tjlam.idxbroker.com. In this case, the alias is homes. So on IDX broker pages, instead of going to tjlam.idxbroker.com, it will now go to homes.tjlam.com. Now, please keep in mind that if you change your CNAME to homes.tjlam.com, this is not going to work. And a lot of times you'll get a 404 error when you're trying to go to IDX pages after the name change propagates. One other thing to keep in mind is that DNS providers can take anywhere from 5 minutes to even up to 24 hours to propagate CNAME changes depending on the host provider. The longest one I've ever seen personally has been about 12 hours, but one of my colleagues has seen CNAME propagations take up to 48 hours in some cases. Normal time is about an hour to 2 hours. So just keep that in mind when you're changing your subdomain. So next, we're going to go over missing listings and how to troubleshoot missing listings prior to contacting tech support for help. So the first thing you'll want to do is to verify that the agent IDs and office IDs are connected to your account. You can do this by going to Preferences, Featured IDs, and then if you have office IDs selected, it will tell you at that point. If you have agent IDs selected, it will also tell you at that point. If you're using Office IDs, you'll need to keep a couple of things in mind. Office IDs are going to be contingent upon your user level. So for example, let's say you're using a 3 to 10 Office account for a small office, and you're using Office IDs. However, there are 30 agents in that office within the MLS. What's going to happen if you're using Office IDs is it's going to grab those first 10 agents without any consideration whatsoever as to which agents you actually want to add. Now, this is really great for large offices. If you have a user level that can include every agent in your office, it's actually better to use Office IDs. In fact, most of our larger accounts tend to use Office IDs as opposed to agent IDs. Where you run into problems, though, is if you're using Office IDs and you have more agents in your office than you have user level for, then you're not going to have the agents that you want connected to the account. So in those cases, you'll really want to switch over to agent IDs and then manually select which agents you want to add. So the first step would be to make sure that your agent IDs and Office IDs are properly connected. Next, you're going to want to see who the primary listing agent for your missing listing was, and make sure that that agent is added to your account. If that agent is not on the account, or if that agent is not showing up when you go to Preferences, Featured IDs, Agent IDs, then please shoot us an email at help@idxbroker.com. When you email us, please include your website address or account number, as well as an MLS ID and the agent's name of the primary listing agent. That will be very helpful, helping us troubleshoot the issue, and will allow us to find this listing within our internal system and then add it to your account properly. So if both of those things are correct, if the agent ID is correctly attached, and the office ID is correctly attached, the next thing to consider is when was this listing added? Keep in mind that currently we refresh our MLSs once every 24 hours in most cases. There are some cases that are updating more frequently because they're on our newer system, and we are working on moving all of our other data feeds over to a newer system that will update more frequently. Currently, if you added a listing, let's say at noon, and we ran your MLS at 10 a.m., that listing is probably not going to show up until 10 a.m. the following morning when we run the MLS again. So if it was a recently added listing, the easiest way to check when it will show is if you log into your IDX broker dashboard and you look at when your MLS last updated. There should be a graph on your dashboard that will give you that information. And if you have problems or trouble locating that in your dashboard, please give our tech support team a call and they'll be happy to walk you through it. And we'll also be happy to tell you when your MLS typically updates. The last thing to keep in mind would be the primary listing agent. Currently, we don't have a way to display featured listings from co-listers. So we're only going to be able to display active listings from the primary listing agent that's attached to the account. So if it was a co-listed listing that is not showing up, that is likely why, is because we're only able to show featured listings from the primary listing agent and not from co-listers. So just a few things to keep in mind. And as always, if you have any trouble, just please email help@idxbroker.com. Make sure you include your website address or account number, as well as the MLS ID of the listing that you're missing. So next we're going to go over wrappers. More than anything, I would say we get probably more calls about wrappers than most anything else because it does have a lot to do with our software and how our software works. So the first thing to consider is the wrapper hierarchy. During the setup process, our support team will apply a global wrapper. So global wrappers will apply to all IDX pages across the board. So there's no need to create multiple wrappers unless you want those wrappers or those pages rather to look very different than all of your other IDX pages. If you're happy with all of your pages looking relatively similar, you'll just need the global wrapper. In fact, the vast majority of our clients only use global wrappers. However, there are some cases where, for example, you may want your map search page to look differently than your advanced search page, or you want all of your search pages to look differently than your sign up pages, for example. In those cases, you'll want to take the wrapper hierarchy into consideration. So just like global wrappers apply to all IDX pages, category wrappers apply to all IDX pages within that certain category. So for example, if you choose the category of search, it's going to apply to all of the IDX search pages with the exception of the map search. And it is going to override the global wrapper just for those categories. Page level wrappers will only apply to that page and will override category and global level wrappers just for that page. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. If you're having wrapper issues or you're noticing that some of your pages are looking differently than others, the first thing to check would be if you have a category or page level wrapper applied to that page that differs from your global wrapper. 9 times out of 10, you'll just need to remove the wrapper, the page level or category level wrapper, and allow the global wrapper to apply. The first thing you'll want to check for your wrapper navigation and menus is your navigation correct on non-IDX pages? If it is, then you'll want to clear your wrapper cache if you're using a dynamic wrapper, or ask for a wrapper update if you're using a static wrapper. The same is true for headers and footers, menus, and sidebars. So if your sidebars, headers, footers, and navigation are correct on all non-IDX pages, then you'll want to either clear your wrapper cache if you're using a dynamic wrapper by going to Designs, Wrappers, Clear Wrapper Cache, and then Save Changes, or you'll want to send an email to help@idxbroker.com and ask for a wrapper update, and we'll be happy to take care of that for you. Anytime you're emailing us at our support team, please remember to include either your website address or account number so that we can assist you as fast as possible. Sometimes you might notice this weird looking icon. Missing image icons are going to vary from browser to browser or even font to font, depending on what's being used. But it'll essentially look like a broken page. Anytime this happens, usually there's one of two causes. Either A, the links are not fully qualified, meaning your links are using relative links instead of absolute links in your wrapper. Essentially what this means is if you tell someone, go 2 blocks and then take a left and you'll be able to get to the McDonald's. Well, if you move your starting location 2 blocks into the left is no longer McDonald's. It might be the bus stop. It might be us here at IDX Broker. It might be your home address. Who knows? But essentially that's what's happening is our software has no way of knowing that where to pull this image from because all we're getting from the link is 2 blocks into the left. But we don't know where that starting point is. So you're going to want to make sure that all of your links are absolute links and are fully qualified. And essentially that means you'll want to make sure that they start with either HTTP or HTTPS, followed by www. And then the address of the link that contains your image. If that's not the case, if your links are fully qualified, then it might be possible that it's just a bad link. So if you try going to that link and the image is not there, that might be the case of your broken image, and you may need to either re-add it or re-upload it to that link. So lastly, we're going to go over agent office mismatch issues. These aren't as common as some of the others, but they're still very important. So just to reiterate a little bit of what I discussed earlier, it's important to understand the hierarchy of the agent and office IDs and how they work. So if you're using a larger office IDs are probably going to be better for you. Basically, the way that office IDs work is they will grab however many user level agents you have without any kind of consideration as to which agents they're grabbing. This was actually set up that way by design so that if you're using a large office, you can have a user level that will allow you to add all of the agents within that office without having to add each of them manually. So for some of our larger accounts, this is super helpful. You can just set office IDs, and as long as the agents have the correct office attached to them within the MLS, then all of your agents will be brought in automatically. Where you can run into trouble with this, though, is let's say you have a single user account or a team account, but there's 12 agents in your office within the MLS. What that's going to do is it's going to grab the first agent or the first two agents from that office without having any consideration as to whether or not those are the two agents that you want to add. So in those cases, you'll want to switch over to agent IDs and select the agents you want, and then click Save. Once you do that, a box is going to pop up. Just click Run this wizard again, and you'll be good to go. Lastly, you'll want to make sure that the agent, if you're noticing that you're missing agents, is attached to the correct office. Unfortunately, offices have to be added by us on our end from the super user level. So if you're noticing that you go to Preferences, Featured IDs, Agent IDs, and your agent is not showing, please send an email to help@idxbroker.com and let us know about it. Please tell us the name of the agent you're missing and give us one listing ID for one of their active listings. This will help us find them in our system and add them to your account appropriately. I think that's all we got for now. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.